Alright. We are at 2 hours 45 minutes in. We have imaginary library to read, and we still got we still got 4. With this one included, we got 4 more SCPs to read. And as Howard told us, each one of the you gotta be fucking shitting me. How? We'll get through it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Listen. At the end, these are long. I'm gonna have a long stream today. It happens. And also, but they're all highly rated, which means they're all good. So at least we're reading excellent stuff. Safe. As SCP-1986 is immovable and located in a heavily traveled public building, security must be maintained covertly in order to prevent the general public from becoming aware of its existence. Guards posing as library staff are to be employed. Only non-lethal measures have been approved. This looks like the Interstellar library almost. This looks so cool. How did they do this? The mouth of SCP-1986 tunnel. The first 100 meters have had lighting installed. So dope. That's so cool. SCP-1986 is a cylindrical tunnel, 2-meter wide, lined with volumes of books. Although the full extent of the tunnel is unknown, interferometric synthetic aperture radar IFSA has established a minimum depth of 274,700 kilometers, or nearly 1 light second. Expedition have confirmed a depth of at least 4,441 kilometers. God damn. The conjecture has been advanced that the tunnel may be infinite. It'd be crazy. And are there actually like books you can read in there? SCP-1986 discovery was occasioned by a librarian trying to identify the source of the draft. Measurements indicate that the tunnel consumes roughly 400 meters cubed per hour. In example, a pressure differential of 25 pa n m squared and a draft velocity of 10 centimeters per second, what the air is being drawn to is unknown. That I don't fully understand, but I understand that it's like you can definitely feel the air draft. The volumes lining the tunnels often resemble known works, though with substantial alteration as to style, character, plot, and subject matter. Authors are occasionally authentic ones, though often they are wholly unknown. The works range from being somewhat unusual to completely nonsensical, though nominally at least intelligible. See the section Recover the Works. All languages currently extant as well as extinct ones are represented. In no case has any volume borne any publication information. Dating techniques have established that the volumes originate from the era they would otherwise appear to be based on semantic and linguistic consideration. No discernible pattern has been found to the arrangement of the volumes. The footnote says for the pattern, one researcher has put forth the evocative comparison that searching the tunnel for a recognizable book is like traversing the real number line in search of the rational numbers. The walls of the tunnel are made of ordinary limestone. Attempts at breaching them have shown that the tunnel is non-Euclidean. An example, to excavate for the floor is to emerge from the ceiling. Topologically, it can be likened to a 3 torus. Yeah. The 3 torus is a 3-dimensional compact manifold with no boundary. It can be obtained by gluing 3 pairs of opposite faces of a cube. After gluing the first pair of opposite faces, the cube looks like a thick washer. After gluing the second pair, the flat faces of the washer, it looks like a hollow torus. The last gluing the inner surface of the hollow torus to outer surface is physically impossible in 3-dimensional space and can only be accomplished in at least 4 dimensions. Attempts at reaching the tunnel at an angle have proven futile, as the tunnel is absent unless approached from its entrance. Discovery log. SCP-1986 was discovered in 1989 by a librarian in an unused basement of La Biblioteca Nacional de la República Argentina, located in Buenos Aires. And that is one of the biggest footnotes we had in a while. Footnote 4. Before the librarian who discovered the artifact was voluntarily administered an amnestic, he brought the attention of Foundation personnel a story by Argentine writer Jorge Luis Borges, sorry, I butchered that, entitled The Library of Babel, not Babel. It is noteworthy that Borges worked at the same library. He was unable to be interviewed as he died in 1986. The following is an excerpt from that story. These examples made it possible for a librarian of genius to discover the fundamental law of the library. This thinker observed that all the books, no matter how diverse they might be, are made up of the same elements: the space, the period, the comma, the 22 letters of the alphabet. He also alleged a fact which travelers have confirmed: in the vast library there are no two identical books. From these two incontrovertible premises, he deduced that the library is total and that its shelves register all the possible combinations of the 20-odd orthographical symbols, a number which, through extremely vast is not infinite. Everything, the minutely detailed history of the future, the archangel autobiographies, the faithful catalogues of the library, thousands and thousands of false catalogues, the demonstration of the fallacy of those catalogues, the demonstration of the fallacy of the true catalog, the Gnostic gospel of Basilites, the commentary on that gospel, the commentary on that gospel, the true story of your death, the translation of every book in all languages, the interpolation of every book in all books. Wait, click to scroll from notebooks? What do you mean? Well, that's the last one. Good. It's the last one that's the thickest footnote. Foundation personnel administer Class B amnestics to those who have been made aware of its existence and cordoned off the basement under the guise of performing emergency structural repairs. Recovered works. The following is a list of selected works recovered from SCP-1986. 1986. Yeah. Should other noteworthy samples come to light, please contact the archivist in charge for appraisal and possible inclusion. Gospel of Eve, author none, language Aramaic, circa 1100 BCE to 200 CE. Depth of recovery 75 meters. God damn. Description: a section of biblical apocrypha purporting to be an account of Eve's life after her exile from the Garden of Eden. Eve is depicted in furious arguments with herself on the nature of free will and original sin. Title: Intangible Heresies. Author Carina Guisti. Language Italian, modern. Depth of recovery 2,318 meters. So you have to just go that far to find this book. Imagine you want to be like, hey, where is this book at? And it's like, oh yeah, just walk 2 kilometers and then you have it. A book of prose poems reminiscent of Italo Calvino style, though informed by magical realism. The foreword introduces their work as having won the Nobel Prize for Obstinance. The Worm of Midnight, Edgar Allan Poe, English modern, 433 meters. A hitherto unknown collection of short stories. An alert researcher recognizes fictitious work as being mentioned but not elaborated on in The Man Who Collected Poe by Robert Bloch. All the stories concern shellfish. Title: I cannot read that in French. Anyone who can read that in French can read it. But it's translated as in I am myself the matter of my book. Pierre de Languitere, French, middle. Depth of recovery 171,888 meters. That's so far in there. Description: similar in style and subject matter to essays. France attempts by Monton, a collection of a large number of short, subjective treatments of various topics inspired by studies in these classics, especially Plutarch, as well as discursion into the autobiographical and anecdotal. Makes heavy use of the passive voice in the future perfect progressive tense. Example: the song will have been being sung by an angel when the fruits of love I desire will have been being consumed by me. The need for legalized abortion. Author anonymous. Language English modern. Depth of this recovery 28,111 meters. Description: a polemic on the moral, medical, and societal cost of illegal abortion makes the case that abortion should be permitted through the 4th trimester. It should just be permitted in general. People, let them decide. Give them the option. If they want it, let them have it. It's really not up to us. It's up to the ladies to decide for themselves. Is itself an exponent of the deadpan non sequitur. Author Claudine Nemechansky. Language ASAL, American Sign Language, modern note, represented using illustration of a Polish wooden mannequin. Depth of recovery 1001 meter. Description: a series of examples and counterexamples to the proposition that the proof of the Banach-Tarski paradox both relies and is independent of Zermelo's axiom of choice. Examples are read in forward order and counterexamples backwards. Counterexamples. Here we go. Sorry. Outnumber examples 2 to 1. Title, another French one that I will not read, but it's translated to a selection of original poetry of the troubadours. Author Rimbaud, language French modern, depth of recovery 40,002 meters. Description: a fictitious collection of poetry consistent with the style of Rimbaud, written completely without the letter U. Roland. Title: Jane's Fighting Ships, 2061 and annual. Author various, language English anachronistic, depth of recovery 889,484 meters. A reference on the changing capabilities of modern navies, their ships, aircraft and weapon systems in service and under construction. Many of the vessels and weapon systems are wholly unknown. Written in limerick form. Title: The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. Author Hawthorne Appenson, English modern, depth of recovery 77 meters. Description: a novel concerning an alternate world where the United States won World War II, but not in a manner consistent with our history, appearing to be written from the point of view of an author living in a world where the Nazis prevailed. A search of 20th century fiction has uncovered this to be an imaginary work that's central to the plot of the real novel The Man in the High Castle by Philip K. Dick. Title: A Lapful of Severed Tongues. Author Lisa Palladino, PhD. Language Braille. Archaic circa 1850 CE. Depth of recovery 44 meters. Description: collection of essays on the American suffragette movement, interspersed with hitherto unknown variation of the tactile olfactory implementations commonly referred to as scratch and sniff. Let me just highlight this so I know how far. Okay. Title: I, Lucifer. Author Anton Pierce. Language English modern, depth of recovery 51,200 meters. Description: a pulp novel centering around the sex lives of a circle of lesbians and their children. Title: treating adult onset sudden infant death syndrome, a diagnostic approach, 16th edition. Author Dr. Palace Benchko. Language Icelandic, Old Circle 950 CE. Depth of recovery 3,303 meters. Note description: note condition actually surveyed is supernumerary phantom limb syndrome, composed in blank verse, unrhymed iambic pentameter. Title: Charm for the Protection of a Child. Author none. Language Egyptian, 8th dynasty, circa 1950 BCE till 1300 BCE. Depth of the recovery 2 meters. Description: an account of the development of religion and thought in ancient Egypt. Much of the material remains as a matter of conjecture, as much of it resists translation. Includes parables comparing the well-lived life to the Ford Motor Corporation. Title: Hagiography and the Gusto-facial response. It's now midnight. Author Declan McManus. Language Basque modern, depth of recovery 1,190 meters. Description: a libretto for an opera considering the plight of a group of Alaskan firemen snowbound in their firehouse, driven mad with hunger and forced to eat their Dalmatians. God damn! Dialogue consists entirely of rhetorical questions. Title: Before the flood, after the fall, or Antediluvian, Post-Lapsarian. Author none. Language Phoenician, ancient circa 1725 BCE till 1490 BCE. Depth of recovery 4,441,113 meters. Note this is the most remote volume that has presently been recovered. Yeah, but that's fucking crazy form. Description: a series of interrogation between the mythical Minotaur and Sphinx. Answers are composed of anagrams formed from the questions. That sounds pretty cool, but that is, you gotta go far for that one. Additional list of recovered works by category approximate. Okay, this is gonna take a while, guys. I mean, as Howard said, the next couple ones right now are gonna take quite some time. Cultures first. Title: Skinning the Elephant, the Pachyderm in Metaphor and Idiom, illustrated. The author, Dr. Virgil Vexis. Doesn't help that the name is Virgil, and I believe we got the theme of Virgil playing right now. Yeah, Bird of Light. There it is. He came, he was like, hey, I heard you, I heard this is about books. Language: English through a simple number placement cipher. Depth of recovery 2,599 meters. Description: historical review of the symbolic role pachyderms have played throughout human history. Makes mention that the African elephant has been used as a symbol by the Democratic Party and the North American elephant by the Anti-Mason Party. Also alludes to but does not elaborate on the emerging human-elephant conflict, illustrated. Title: The Young Lady's Guide to Etiquette and Grooming. Author: S. Compton, MME. Language: French, recent circa 1750 CE. Depth of recovery 1,298 meters. Description: the book is handwritten and describes in extensive detail the way a lady should properly behave in high society. Included are illustrations of the correct placement of the tail for various social settings, how a lady may best scale a tree and preserve her modesty, and the best way to fend off unwanted advances while in estrus. So that was culture. Now we're going to fiction, which there's a lot more. Why you had to do 4. Title: Eucalyptus or the Wanderer. Author: Sophie Markowitz, with an introduction attributed to Juan Carlos I of Spain. Language: Gaelic, Manx dialect, archaic. Depth of recovery 614 meters. Description: a fictional first-person narrative set in the 18th century Europe, describing how the protagonist, referred to only as Eucalyptus, is forced into homelessness and vagrancy after being beset upon by a supernatural entity which sets fire to any building that he takes up residence in. Sounds like Fire Force. The novel contains the framed narrative of a university professor using the story in a lecture to illustrate a thought experiment concerning fate versus free will. This narrative is interrupted by the appearance of the Eucalyptus and is setting fire to the lecture theater. The story ends in mid-sentence as a professor and his students are attempting to flee the building. An introduction points out allusions in the narrative to classical myth, the life of Mary Shelley, computational physics, the Oxford coma, and the heat death of the universe. Title: Hatred. Darius Jackson. Language: English non-standard. Depth of recovery 447 meters. Description: a dramatization of a purportedly true story that occurred during the Great London Earthquake of 2007. It follows the story of the Haddots, the triplets, residents of London at the time, and the successful attempts at reaching a refugee camp after 2 weeks of wandering the fallen city. The triplets institute an extrajudicial court to deal with looters caught during the calamity, acting as the prosecutor, defense counsel, and judge. In the afterword, the author writes that the 3 sisters were treated as national heroes and awarded damehood by King Albert III. Title: French again. Translated: I know you did it. This is very fitting. I mean, by the time this video comes out, it's gonna be old news, but since people are talking about O.J. Simpson now, and about his book saying, if I did it, with, like the if is like written really small. The fact I'm reading something that says, I know you did it, is kind of wild. Author: Miriam Cotillard. Language: French. Depth of recovery 1,083 meters. Description: a novella written in the first person in which the author spends the entire story accusing the reader of having stolen her shoe. The novella is divided into 12 chapters, each themed after one of the zodiacal signs. An overarching theme throughout the text is the 7 stages of dying, with the writing style reflecting said stages. Example pages in the Angel section have been printed in boldface. An epilogue by the author is an apologia where she confesses that she has since found her shoe. Oh, no, never mind. Found it, guys. Found my shoe. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry. I'm sorry for so long. The last words. Author Dutch Schultz, as channeled by Talaimal, language film, PhD, language Hindi, depth of recovery, 41,285 meters. Description. Purports to be the lengthy records of a seance performed over 40 days between a 40 days? What? Between a self-styled clairvoyant and a late 20th century prime figure Dutch Schultz, whose dying words were in fact transcribed by a police stenographer while he lingered between life and death from a gunshot wound to the head. The text is identical to the words actually transcribed, but with the addition of considerable material rendering it unintelligible. This unexpurgated version of recounts in heroic forms the history of man from the Bronze Age to the beginning of the 21st century. The epilogue chastises the use by other authors of the false transcript in what it terms to be derivative and heretical works, notably the author William Burroughs and the authors Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson. Now we go from fiction to history. Okay, 3 of them. Titled The Annotated Diaries of Woodrow Wilson, Volume 2, author edited by Dr. DKL Conyer, language English modern, depth of recovery 1,331 meters. Description: the second of an unknown number of volumes of the private diaries of U.S. President Woodrow Wilson detailed the political battle for Thailand's statehood, his thoughts on the 20th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution granting citizenship to the afflicted, and his personal doubts about being named presbyter of the Imperial States of America. Title: Martian-Terran Relations, a Literary Approach. Author Sheila MacDonald, PhD, language Afrikaans, depth of recovery 1,203,117 meters. Description: a historical review of the history of Earth-Mars relations begins with Galileo Galilei's initial observation in 1601 of artifacts on Mars and the Church's reactionary attempts to dismiss and then suppress the discovery. Following was a survey of the speculative writing of the last 4 centuries, notably by Descartes, Voltaire, and Mark Twain. Details first contact in 1890 when Mars successfully landed a craft off the coast of South Africa in reaction at the time. Covers the impassioned championing of tolerance by Ray Bradbury and Dr. Martin Luther King, as well as H.G. Wells, xenophobic writing in the House Un-American Activities Committee's influential publication, The Red Menace. Concludes with a personal account of the inauguration of the first Martian to the U.S., House of Representatives in 2007, its subsequent assassination, and the President's historic eulogy. Title: Cannibalism and the Free Market. Author Samuel Clemens, language Spanish, depth of recovery 157 meters. Description: a transcript of the 1968 U.S. presidential debates between Barry Goldwater and Adlai Stevenson, presented as a series of Socratic dialogues concerned primarily with the economic costs and benefits of instituting the political programs outlined in a modest proposal by Jonathan Swift, an example, eating the poor. I knew something was going to happen about, like, it's beneficial if you eat the poor. Okay, from history to language. Title: An English citation phrasebook. Author various language English dolphin presumed depth of recovery 191,214 meters. Description: a short publication consisting of English phrases alongside undeciphered symbols. An examination of the hypothetically citation portions have suggested it to be an agglutinative, highly morphologically rich language devoid of conventional grammatical structure. The English phrases are couched in unusually differential language reminiscent of feudal Japanese, suggesting that human beings play a subservient role or hold a position of diminished authority. I love how creative this SCP is. It's literally just, it's so original. They could have just taken like books that we have and just be like, oh, it's different, it's rewritten, but they actually came up with different ideas for books, which I really, really respect. I love it. The Joy of Cooking the English Language. Author Irma Sandusky. Language English Modern. Depths of Recovery 101 meters. Description: a cookbook describing the proper preparation and cooking of words and phrases in a wide variety of meals. Details include pre-cooking blanching techniques for crispy, proposition recipes for suffixes described as a fun treat for children, and a modified adjectival meal sufficient to feed 8. The last chapter of the book is devoted exclusively to what is described as gourmet words, example, inhospitable, tertiary, periphery, etc. Literary criticism, so from language to that. I'm glad they're keeping it short now. Title: Grootwerken en Human Leugen. Translate: Great Work in Human Fiction. Okay, so I thought it was Dutch. I was like, there's some words in here that I can understand. Author Gregory Beauchamp, Dutch. Depth of recovery 8,884 meters. Description: an encyclopedic analysis of what the author describes as the most important works in fiction, and this includes Winnie the Pooh, Beowulf, the lyrics of John Lennon, World War I, Jimmy Carter, Atlantis, and the work of Isaac Newton. In addition, the author devotes a section of the book detailing certain revealed truths hidden within this great fiction. Such revelations include that Nazi Germany did not win World War II as is commonly believed, that polio is a disease and not an imbalance of humors as is currently thought, and that the moon landing in 1969 was in fact a hoax perpetrated on a sound stage located on the surface of the moon. Of course. Title: Ahnung. Ishkwade, symbolism of the flame in the poetry of Running Bird. Sosawa K. Dr. Running Bird. Sosawa K. Ojibwe. I don't know how to say that. It probably is pronounced way differently, so I'm sorry for that. Depths of recovery 1,242 meters. Description: the book begins with analysis and praise of the author's own poetry. The short literary critique ends abruptly after several pages and is followed by hundreds of seemingly random illustrations. They range from detailed sketches of indigenous artifacts to unintelligible graphs. At the conclusion of the book, there is a diagram labeled Chino den Nibelwind, Big Death Wind. It depicts a series of dots that resemble the Orion constellation. The leftmost star on Orion's belt is circled. Okay. Mathematics. Title: Principia Mathematica number 2. Author Ludwig Wittgenstein. Text: Salvador Dali. Illustration: English, middle circa 1250 CE. 1250 CE. Depth of the recovery 16,357 meters. I guess. It doesn't say meters, but I'm guessing it's meters. Description: a 1,200 page sequel to the 3-volume Principia Mathematica written by Alfred North Whitehead and Bertrand Russell, published in the early 20th century. The work is an attempt to extend the logical system of the original into a theory of surrealist mathematics wherein arithmetic can be applied to various heterogeneous objects. 134 pages are devoted to the proposition that a yardstick is neither a yard long nor is it not a yard long. Oh boy. Title: a game theoretic analysis of n-dimensional hyperchess and the effect of passant rules. Author Paul Spencerton. The fact that it says a game theoretic, I immediately had to think of game theory, since Howard also mentioned that today. Language English Modern. Depth of recovery 574 meters. Description: a generalized analysis of multidimensional chess, proving that black has winning strategy involving an passant when the number of dimension n greater than 1 is given by the formula that, which includes the case where n equals 2 in example conventional chess. The book does not go so far as to provide the winning strategy, instead only demonstrating that one must exist, in example a pure existence proof. You just gotta exist, bro. What don't you understand? Philosophy. Oh, thank only one. The Extensia Divinum Deus. Author Erasmus Rudler. Language Latin, Renaissance. Depth of recovery 809,542 meters. Description: a rigorous 2,119-page ontological proof of the existence of God, embedded in the formalism of number theory and sets theory. Assumes the truth of the Riemann hypothesis and the falsity of the continuum hypothesis, both currently undecided. It follows from God's existence that he would be omniscient, that there is no more powerful being than God, that God cannot act contrary to his own will, and that God and the devil are disjoint sets. Note: no errors in reasoning have yet been discovered by foundation mathematicians. That sounds... That God exists, he would be omniscient, that there's no more powerful being than God, that God cannot act contrary to his own will. Okay. God and the devil are disjoint sets. Interesting. It kind of sounds similar to our beliefs. I might be wrong. If I am wrong, please explain it to me in the comments. But like, I was thinking, like, because the SCP Foundation technically have God in containment, I was thinking like, okay, but the way that one describes sounds more like, you know, like ours, which would make sense because in the Foundation world, our religion does not, I assume, not really exist, or it's not not fully one-to-one. So that makes sense to me. Oh god, that was imaginary library. That was awesome though. I love that. I will have to go to the bathroom though. I've been holding this in the entire time I was reading that. So I'll be right back.